morning. So this is going to be our yearly talk about the cold. It is here. Winter has come and it is bitter cold. I miss the snow because when the snow was here, it was like 30 some degrees and this is terrible. I think it was like 17 or 20. But anyways, we need to make sure that if we have outside animals, that they have what they need. Remember, you are keeping them confined. Maybe they're outside cats, but they might still need some help finding some warm places to be. That's not an engine in someone's car. But especially our dogs who are tied up in kennels for whatever their situation is that they're living outside. We have to be the ones to provide for them. It is unfair to tie them up and not give them what they need. Now, with that said, I'm not saying let your dogs loose because the dog warden's going to get you, and it is against the law to let your dogs run loose. There is some danger to it to other people. So, but, what does that mean? That means they need a house, a shelter of some sort. Yes, it can be a home-built dog house. I've seen plenty that work great. It can be one that you buy. It can be a used one. But it needs to be something that blocks the wind, that has their bodies off of the ground. So it can't be like an open box and they sleep on the ground. It needs to have a bottom, so that's kind of like our floor in our house, right? I got up this morning at like 3 o'clock in the morning and my floor was ice cold. And that's my house. So imagine being outside. Their feet are like our fingertips or us being barefoot, Yes, they have fur on their bodies, but the pads of their feet are still touching the ground. And imagine trying to stay warm and rest and sleep on a cold ground. You want to make sure that you're using straw, not hay, not blankets. You can buy straw at like TSC, maybe Rural King. I can't say that for sure, but I know we'll stop for the humane agent and get a bale of straw from the TSC for her. And a bale of straw would totally do 2 or 3 boxes. And as long as the dogs are not big diggers of kicking it out, that should be plenty. You can put straw in a cat box as well. Cats are funnier about getting into houses, but they also have room to go somewhere else. But we do want to entice them not to get in engines, right? Because they're warm and that's why they do it. So we also have to check their water. Water freezes really fast, and it's not enough to have a chunk of ice out there for them to lick. Because we've all seen the Christmas Story where the kid gets his tongue stuck on the pole, right? That's not fair. I mean, is that how you'd want to get your drinks for the day, is licking a piece of ice? No, I don't think so. So you will have to go out and change it often because it's going to turn to ice. You're going to have to empty that out and give them fresh water. And it is a law that you have to do that. Now, technically the law is they're supposed to have food, water, and shelter. But let's face it, you can't always have food out 24/7 for a dog. Dogs are crazy and they will eat all of it. So, but water and shelter, absolutely. And this is the time of year we get a ton of calls about a lot of animals. Now, there is that rare animal who won't allow you to have straw in their house. I think it was about 2 winters ago, we got a call about a husky who didn't have straw in his house, who wouldn't go in his house. Okay, well, first of all, I can't make him go in his house. Nobody can, all right? And you can't force it. If he has a house that's warm and he doesn't want to be in it, then that's a choice, but the option is there. So the humane agent went and talked to him and they said, well, he won't leave the straw in. We've tried. So she said, do you mind if I put some straw in just so I can verify that? And I kid you not, as soon as she put straw in his house, he looked at her, walked in, kicked every bit of it out, and then walked out and laid on the ground. So that's how he liked it. And, in his case, that worked out okay. The other thing we have to remember is not just the animals living outside, but our house animals who are, used to being in our 65, 70, 75 degree houses. Their coats aren't built for the outside. They don't get that deep, thicker coat, and some short hairs can only go so far with it because their body says you're warm enough, you don't need it. So if they had been outside, they would have gradually built that up some, and that would have helped. So we need to remember that we might have to shorten how long they can be out. Again, it's more about feet more than anything, because that's what's touching the cold ground, that's what's touching the ice, and we need to watch that. By the way, some dogs cut their toes on ice. It happens. So, you know, I still put mine out. They need to go out, they need to pee, they need to go run around, but I might have to shorten it for some of the shorter hairs. And then I've got my husky and my poodle who are like, are you kidding me? We're good for a while. And they're out for a lot longer. Their feet don't have any more hair on them than the others, but I guess because they run or their bodies are warmer, they don't mind it so much. But that's something you have to remember as well, that you don't stick your animals that live inside suddenly outside for, you know, 3 hours and think they're going to be okay. They're actually going to have a harder time than that dog who's already acclimated through the seasons. Let's see. Your dogs outside might need more food because they're burning more calories to stay warm. So what you fed them in the summer is not going to be the same as what you need to feed them in the winter, because if they start losing weight, then they lose the ability to stay warmer. They lose that energy, so they stop moving as much, and that's when you are going to start to see these animals, you know, freezing in their houses. And so don't be stingy. Give them extra food. Now, if you've got a glutton dog who would eat everything you put in front of him, the whole 40-pound bag, obviously don't do that. We don't want to make him sick. We don't want to make him bloat. But let's say you feed your dog 4 cups of food a day, you might need to feed him 5 or 6 if he's dealing with the elements all day. And yes, 2 dogs in the same house definitely can be warmer, but you have to remember, like I saw a dog house last week that it was big enough for 3 dogs, but it was really tall. And so there's a lot of air in there. And then the door was really big, which allowed a lot of air in. They do make things like rubber doors that you can put on them. You can put a piece of rubber on it. Even a plastic bag can be helpful to block air if your dog will walk through in and out with that on. There are a lot of ideas out there to help keep your dogs warm. Of course, you can get the heated boxes. I do suggest that you have some kind of crate around or a special place you plan to put your dog on those nights when it gets to the point where it's so cold, even outside with all of those things, it's not really safe. That way you're prepared. You know, bring them in for the night, let them sleep in a crate, and that way they're, you know, in during the coldest point. Because even though winter doesn't allow the sun to shine much, we all know it's warmer during the day when the sun is up, even if it's behind a bunch of clouds. So there's a lot of other tips out there. I'm sure I'm not covering enough, and I'm not going to go by degrees because, well, you know what? It kind of varies. Depends on the wind, depends on the sun. You know, 17 with no sun and high winds is a lot colder than 17 with no wind and a lot of sun. So just be smart, you know, because, you know, if not, we're going to get calls and the humane agent's going to come check your place out. She's not trying to target you. She's just trying to check on the animals, make sure they have what they need. And we get that dog houses are expensive. A lot of people give them away or sell them really cheap on Marketplace. So definitely if you need a dog house, look around on there. You know, somebody's dog passes away or they stop having their dog live outside, and bam, you can get a dog house for $20 or $30. So have a good day. Stay warm. It's cold outside.